Is there anything you want to say about just the dissent in the Liberal Party?
I'm focused on getting things done for my riding and for people across Canada. They can focus on getting their house in order. The NDP's focused on getting things accomplished for people across Canada.
How soon do you think your opposition day motion will be able to be presented?
Well, that's up to the Conservatives and the Liberals. We know that the Conservatives filibuster, as of today, is costing close to $20 million. And the Liberals need to do the right thing. They've been told what they need to do. Both parties, if they're serious about getting things done, the Conservatives have to stop blocking their own motion, and the Liberals need to be transparent about what's going on.
Thank you.
We've heard from Wayne Long, we've heard from Sean Casey saying that basically they're planning on moving on, specifically Mr. Casey. Do you think this means that the Rebels who told Mr. Trudeau to leave, that this is a dead issue now?
I think so. I think we need to focus on Canadians, and I respect my colleagues who have brought this up. Obviously, we will defer on how we solve this, but I think I would caution them to operate in the line of Mr. Casey.
What about the grassroots effort to have your Prime Minister reconsider his leadership?
I wouldn't consider LFAP's grassroots.
You think this is just going to go away?
I think so, yeah.
Would you say the Liberal caucus is unified now after the caucus meeting?
I think we're unified in figuring out a plan forward, for sure.
And does that plan include Mr. Trudeau being the leader going forward?
Yeah, he said he is, and we stand by
Do you
that.
support that?
I do.
Would you say the Liberal caucus is united behind Mr. Trudeau now?
I don't want to comment on caucus, what happens in caucus.
Do you support the Prime Minister going forward? He's made it clear he'd still like to stay on as leader.
Absolutely, I support the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
How can the caucus get past this dissent that's in the party?
I think there's healthy discussions always in our caucus, and I don't want to go too much far into them, but I think that having healthy discussions is a good thing for a party.
But when you have 24 MPs calling for the Prime Minister to resign, how do you move forward?
I think that all of our parliamentarians are able to express their views in our caucus, and we appreciate that. I'd say that there are more or less opinions on a strategy of how we move forward, but I don't think it's a dissent. I believe it's more of our caucus members feeling free to share their opinions, and that's a good thing about our caucus.
What are you hearing from your constituents?
I hope to hear from them this weekend.
Would you say the Liberal Party is united behind Mr. Trudeau now? We've moved past the caucus issues?
I think we've got to focus on Mr. Poilievre and making sure we win the next election.
But how do you do that with all these dissenters?
I think everyone is committed to making sure that we work together as a team. Everyone is committed to making sure that we beat Mr. Poilievre and making sure that we keep moving forward on the priorities for Canadians.
The Liberal Party is united behind Mr. Trudeau right now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep.
Do you think that he's the best person to lead the party in the next election?
I do.
And are you confident that you're going to be able
Slow
to...
down if you want.
No, well, let's get to the other side.
Okay.
Are you confident that you can be in caucus with the number of members of Parliament who stood up and told Mr. Trudeau to his face that he should resign?
Yeah, in fact, I think this is a sign of a strong caucus. I know it won't appear that way at first blush, but there's many ways to have a caucus. We see the Conservatives are under the thumb of their leader each and every time, and we know that Conservative members openly express that to colleagues across the aisle. But our caucus is a democratic one where MPs can share their point of view, and they have.
We've heard from Mr. Casey saying...
There's a diverse perspective.
We've heard from Mr. Casey, who's one of the only people who've come out and said Mr. Trudeau should leave, that he's moving on, the fight is now focused on trying to win a seat. Would that be what you tell the other colleagues who stood up in caucus that told Mr. Trudeau to quit, that you should move on and focus on beating Mr. Poilievre?
They will make their decisions. These are colleagues that I've known for a decade. I respect all of them. But at some point, yes, they will have to decide what they want to do. Mr. Casey spoke up quite openly on what he thought, and he's obviously going a different path now, and I respect that. I think the others will do that as well, but we will see.
Do you think there should be consequences for those dissenters who don't let up?
Listen, I think that it's a party right now that is experiencing, like the whole country, we're in a difficult moment, but we either unite or we don't, and I think that unity is really critical if we're going to take on Poilievre, who wants to cut pensions, he wants to cut employment insurance, the Canada Child Benefit. Those are the issues facing the country right now. And like my colleague Nathaniel Erskine-Smith put it, I thought he put it very well when he said that the knives have to be pointed outward and not inward. I'm of the same view.
Do you think there needs to be other policy changes outside of the immigration cuts to be able to effectively fight Mr. Poilievre in the next election, such as the carbon tax?
We're always going to have to look at policies to put to Canadians to meet the challenges of the day and in the future. On carbon pricing, look, let's be clear, emissions are going down in this country and economic growth is increasing. We're seeing Canada leading economic growth in the G7, the lowest deficit, the lowest debt. I know you've heard these points before, obviously. However, I think it bodes well for the future. Those are telltale signs of where our economy is. Now, it still remains a difficult moment for people, and that's where I think our caucus will remain squarely focused on the challenges of our constituents. It's still tough for them to keep up with mortgage payments right now in the main. Many are going to be renewing. That challenge is on their mind. Rent is expensive, and climate change concerns are ever present. So we have to keep that in sharp focus always. But you do that in a united party, and I think we're going to be united.
You mentioned your constituents. Is Mr. Trudeau popular with them when you knock on the doors? What's the reaction to him when he comes up?
There's a diversity of perspectives, as you know, when it comes to prime ministers. There simply is. I'm not going to say that at every door I find someone who agrees that the prime minister is the right moment, or the right person rather, for the moment. But there's also many constituents who want him to stay on. And so I've listened to all those perspectives. Considered everything I've heard, and yes, I think that the Prime Minister, who's led us through enormous challenges in the past few years, securing the economy and with the rise of Donald Trump in 2016, the pandemic, many other examples. This is a Prime Minister who has been able to steer the country through many, many crises, in the plural. And all you have to know on that, and this is something I've shared with colleagues and constituents, is no less a person than Brian Mulroney made one of his last speeches was where he praised Prime Minister Trudeau on what he had achieved as Prime Minister. I think he said that no Prime Minister in Canada's modern history has dealt with so many crises seemingly all at once or very close together. So when Brian Mulroney came out and said that, I think that speaks volumes about Prime Minister's leadership. Yeah, there's a diversity of perspectives, but we have to continue here in a united way, united in the conviction that Pierre Poilievre would be a disaster for Canada.
How do you make him popular, though, again? Because he's extremely unpopular right now in the country.
Well, there's a lot of work to do in a variety of ways. Mr. Trudeau will speak to that. But what we can do as...
But people have stopped listening.
Yeah, so I think what Canadians really deserve right now is a serious government focused on serious solutions for the future. You were in question period today, I think. Did you hear the Conservatives offering any kind of plan, any kind of meaningful solutions to deal with the challenges of the day? I'd never hear that at all. And that's what I think Canadians need right now. Not only a party that's going to identify problems, which is their job. That's their job as the official opposition. But in keeping with what we see with other populist right parties, and I think the Conservative Party of the modern day, certainly not of previous days with Mulroney and others, but now it's a populist party. And so what do populist parties do? They identify problems at every opportunity, but they very rarely, if ever, offer meaningful solutions. And that's what I would expect from the Conservatives. We won't see it because they have made that populist turn. And our job is to focus on the solutions of the day. That's where my head's at. That's what my constituents are expecting of me. And that's why I haven't really been very immersed while we're chatting here. I've not been very immersed in these questions of leadership because my constituents sent me here to work on the issues, in this case, of London. I'm a London MP. Any moment spent immersing myself around questions of palace and political intrigue is a moment I'm not spending on the needs, issues, and concerns of my constituents. So that's where I'm at. Thanks.